May 26th, 1999. Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. William Wild Bill Cutolo sits inside an automobile as it approaches a park near 92nd Street and Shore Road. The man driving is an auto mechanic, Cutolo knows. Nothing about the ride looks dangerous. Cutolo is the underboss of the Colombo crime family. He controls loyal soldiers, labor connections, gambling operations, loans, and a Brooklyn social club filled with men who depend on him. He survived one of the bloodiest Mafia wars New York had seen in decades. He survived federal murder charges. He survived after supporting the losing side of that war. Now the son of his old enemy has supposedly asked to meet him. Alphonse "Alley Boy" Persico, the acting boss. Cutolo has told his wife that he believes he is going to see Persico. The meeting may concern family business, money, or the growing tension over who will control the Colombo organization when Persico returns to prison. Wild Bill knows there is history between them. He also knows that refusing a direct meeting with the acting boss could make him look disloyal. The mechanic stops near the park. Cutolo gets out. The car pulls away. Wild Bill is never seen alive again. Hours later, his crew gathers for its regular Wednesday dinner at the Friendly Bocce social club. Cutolo is always there. This time, his chair remains empty. John Jackie DeRoss sits with the men and pretends to be confused. He tells Cutolo's son to call his father and find out where he is. The telephone rings. Nobody answers. DeRoss already knows why. According to the case prosecutors later built, the meeting was never intended to settle a dispute. It was designed to remove the one man Alley Boy Persico feared could take his throne. Cutolo was taken to the basement apartment of a Colombo soldier. Men he considered part of his own family were waiting. Wild Bill was shot. His body was carried to Long Island and buried in a field. The killers believed the earth would hold their secret forever. But killing Cutolo was only the first part of the plan. The next morning, DeRoss appeared at the missing underboss's home and began asking his wife where Bill kept his money. Then the threats began. Cutolo's wife, his children, even his young grandchildren. The men responsible for the murder wanted the family silent while they divided everything Wild Bill had built. Before we open that file, tell us in the comments where you are watching from, and subscribe for more hidden betrayals, mafia power struggles, and true stories from the underworld. This is the real story of William Wild Bill Cutolo. How an aggressive Brooklyn gangster became one of the most powerful men in the Colombo family. How he backed the wrong leader during a civil war and somehow returned from defeat as underboss. How his money, soldiers, and influence became too large for the acting boss to tolerate. And how a meeting presented as peace became the final trap in a war the Mafia claimed had ended years earlier. William Cutolo was born in 1949 and grew up in the Brooklyn world that supplied the Colombo family with soldiers, union officials, gamblers, thieves, and enforcers. He became known by several names: Billy Fingers, Wild Bill. The nicknames reflected the reputation he developed as a man willing to use pressure quickly and personally. Cutolo did not build his power only through violence. Violence made the business behind him believable. He earned through gambling, loan sharking, labor influence, and businesses that depended on access to workers and contracts. A gambling operation produced weekly cash. A loan shark gave borrowers money that legitimate banks would not provide, then collected interest through the threat of consequences. Labor racketeering offered something larger: control a union official, and the Mafia could influence entire industries. A contractor needed workers. A building project needed deliveries. A company needed labor peace. A union could provide those things or make them disappear. The mob did not need to own the construction company. It needed influence over the point where work could stop. Cutolo became president and business agent of Teamsters Local 861 in New York. That position gave him access to legitimate workers and employers while he was rising inside the Colombo family. A businessman negotiating with Cutolo was not dealing only with a union representative. He was dealing with a man the government identified as a member of organized crime. If the businessman accepted the arrangement, work continued. If he resisted, a labor disagreement could become a personal problem. In 1990, Cutolo left the Teamsters after an independent administrator found that he knowingly associated with organized crime figures. Losing the union position did not remove the relationships he had built. Drivers still knew him. Contractors still recognized his name. Union figures still understood what stood behind a request. Cutolo later became connected to another labor organization, Local 400 of the Industrial and Production Workers Union. The titles changed. The basic opportunity remained. Union dues, benefit funds, contracts, salaries, and pension money created pools of legitimate wealth that criminal figures wanted to influence. Wild Bill understood that controlling organized labor could produce more stable income than a street robbery. A robber receives one payment. A compromised union can produce money for years. Cutolo's rise accelerated under Victor Little Vic Orena. Carmine the Snake Persico remained the official Colombo boss even while serving a life sentence in federal prison. Because Carmine could not manage every daily decision from behind bars, Orena became acting boss. At first, the arrangement appeared temporary. Then Orena began believing he should become the official boss. He had captains supporting him. He was earning. He was operating on the street, while Carmine remained imprisoned. Orena reportedly sought recognition from the Mafia Commission, but the Persico faction refused to surrender control. The disagreement moved beyond politics. By 1991, the Colombo family divided into two armed factions. One remained loyal to Carmine Persico and his son Ali Boy. The other followed Victor Orena. Wild Bill Cutolo became one of Orena's strongest commanders. The family was no longer fighting another mafia organization. Colombo soldiers were hunting Colombo soldiers. Men who had attended weddings together began watching each other's homes. Social clubs became military positions. Drivers checked mirrors for surveillance that might not belong to the FBI. Cars slowed beside houses and gunfire followed. Both factions created lists of targets. Each murder produced another retaliation. The war damaged every traditional promise the Mafia made to its own members. The family claimed that induction created brotherhood. Now formally inducted men were killing one another, over which imprisoned or acting boss should receive the envelopes. Cutolo's crew participated directly in the violence. Federal court records later described him and his associates as members of the Orena faction who conspired to murder supporters of the Persicos. One of the principal Persico gunmen was Gregory the Grim Reaper Scarpa. Scarpa was both a feared Colombo killer and a secret FBI informant. That combination made the war even more destructive. He carried out attacks for the Persico side while passing information to federal agents. Cutolo and Scarpa represented opposite factions and became part of the cycle of attempted killings that turned Brooklyn streets into contested territory. Wild Bill's value to Orena came from more than his willingness to fight. Cutolo had men. He had money. He had union connections. He had a headquarters at the Friendly Bocce Social Club in Bath Beach. A social club gave the crew a place to collect payments, discuss disputes, and watch the neighborhood. The club looked informal. Its routines created structure. Certain men arrived on certain nights. Captains reported problems. Associates waited for instructions. Everybody knew where Wild Bill could be found. During the war, that visibility was both power and danger. A captain with loyal soldiers could defend a faction. He could also become a rival to whoever survived it. The Orena side initially appeared stronger in numbers. The Persico faction was smaller but more disciplined and benefited from Scarpa's violence and intelligence. Federal arrests removed major figures. Orena was captured and eventually received multiple life sentences. Joseph Scopo, another leading Orena figure, was murdered in 1993. The Persico side declared victory. Wild Bill had backed the losing faction. Under ordinary mafia logic, that should have ended with his death. Instead, federal prosecution temporarily removed him from the street. Cutolo faced charges connected to murder and the Colombo War. Prosecutors accused him of participating in the 1988 killing of James Angelino and conspiring to murder Persico faction members. A conviction could have placed him in prison for life. In 1994, Cutolo was acquitted. He returned to Brooklyn with something few men from the defeated faction still possessed: freedom. His major rivals were dead or imprisoned. His own crew remained loyal. His labor and business connections survived. The Persicos had won the war, but they still needed the surviving men beneath them to earn money and stabilize the family. Wild Bill made himself useful again. This was the uneasy compromise beneath the peace. Cutolo accepted the Persico leadership. The Persicos allowed a former enemy to continue operating. Eventually, Wild Bill rose to underboss. The promotion appeared to heal the family. It placed a powerful former arena supporter directly beneath Ali Boy Persico. But Mafia promotions can serve two purposes. They can reward loyalty. They can also keep a dangerous man close enough to watch. Cutolo now possessed one of the highest titles in the organization. Captains brought disputes to him. Soldiers recognized his authority. Money moved through his hands before reaching the acting boss. His crew was considered one of the family's strongest, and Ali Boy faced another prison sentence after being arrested in Florida with weapons he was legally forbidden to possess. That created the exact situation the Persicos feared. If Ali Boy went away again, who would control the family on the street? The official boss, Carmine Persico, remained imprisoned. The acting boss was facing confinement. Wild Bill was already underboss. He had survived the war. He controlled men who had once fought the Persicos. The title that was supposed to create peace now gave him the position required to seize control. Federal prosecutors later proved that Ali Boy Persico and Jackie DeRoss believed Cutolo had become too powerful and might take over the family. The fear was not irrational. Mafia leadership depends on more than an official title. A boss must receive money. Captains must accept his decisions. Soldiers must believe disobedience will produce consequences. If the boss is in prison and the underboss controls the street, the hierarchy can reverse without anybody announcing it. Ali Boy carried the Persico name. Wild Bill carried daily power. The old war also remained alive beneath the agreement. Cutolo had not merely disagreed with the Persicos. He had helped lead men trying to kill their supporters. Friends and relatives had died. The family could declare the conflict finished. The survivors still remembered who had been shooting at them. Ali Boy and DeRoss therefore had two motives: prevent Cutolo from taking control in the future, punish him for what he had done in the past. The murder had to be arranged carefully. Wild Bill understood ambushes. An unfamiliar associate could not invite him into a basement. A rival could not approach him openly. His soldiers watched him. His family knew his routine. The only invitation powerful enough to overcome that caution had to come from the acting boss. A direct meeting with Ali Boy carried authority. Refusing could be interpreted as rebellion. Attending might finally resolve how the family would operate while Persico returned to prison. That was why the trap worked. On May 26, 1999, Cutolo told his wife Marguerite that he believed he was going to meet Ali Boy Persico. An auto mechanic drove him to the park near Shore Road. The mechanic dropped him off. Wild Bill entered the control of men sent by his own administration. The full details would emerge in stages during later investigations. Prosecutors eventually charged that Thomas Gioeli, Dino Calabro, and Dino Saraceno participated in the murder. Cutolo was taken to Saraceno's basement apartment. The location provided privacy. A basement separated the violence from the street. Walls contained sound. Men controlled the entrance. There would be no public restaurant, parked car, or visible body connecting the murder to the Colombo leadership. Wild Bill was shot. The underboss, who had survived years of gunfire during the Colombo War, died inside a room controlled by men supposedly belonging to the same family. His body was transported to Farmingdale, Long Island. The killers buried him in a field. The grave removed the most obvious evidence. No body meant no confirmed murder. Persico's lawyers could argue that Cutolo had fled. They could suggest he was hiding money, escaping prosecution, or beginning a new life. The Mafia had removed the underboss while leaving open every explanation except the one that led back to the acting boss. That evening, Cutolo's crew gathered at the Friendly Bocce Social Club for its normal Wednesday dinner. Jackie DeRoss was there. Wild Bill was not. The absence was immediately alarming because Cutolo's routine was dependable. DeRoss acted surprised. He told William Cutolo Jr. to telephone his father. The instruction was cruel because DeRoss allegedly knew the call could never be answered. It also gave him a performance. He could appear concerned in front of the crew. He could watch their reactions. He could identify which men became suspicious. And he could begin positioning himself over the organization Wild Bill had left behind. The following morning, DeRoss arrived at the Cutolo home. He did not behave like a friend searching for a missing man. He began asking Marguerite where her husband kept his money. Wild Bill's body was still hidden. The men above him were already dividing the assets. Money in a mafia crew does not automatically pass to a widow. Loan sharking records, gambling accounts, union interests, and cash belong to whoever has enough authority to collect them. Cutolo's disappearance created an opportunity. His debtors could deny what they owed. His soldiers could move toward another captain. The administration could seize his businesses. DeRoss wanted the books before anyone else could reach them, but the Cutolo family knew one fact capable of destroying the cover story. Wild Bill had said he was going to meet Ali Boy. Marguerite and her children suspected the Colombo leadership almost immediately. That made them witnesses. DeRoss responded with pressure. In March of 2000, William Cutolo Jr. secretly recorded a meeting with him. DeRoss ordered the family to provide false information to a private investigator working for Persico. He warned that Marguerite could be hurt. He also referred to the little children, meaning Cutolo's young granddaughters. The message was clear. Wild Bill was already gone. The family could join him. For years, the threats worked. Marguerite and her daughter withheld the statement about the Persico meeting from investigators. They were not protecting the Mafia out of loyalty. They were protecting children from the men who had already removed the underboss. William Jr. chose another path. He began cooperating with the FBI. The son of a murdered Mafia leader entered the same social clubs his father once controlled while carrying recording equipment for the government. He spoke with men who believed he wanted to rise inside the Colombo family. He listened. He asked questions. He gathered conversations about the organization and the people surrounding his father's disappearance. It was revenge performed through the system the Mafia feared most: cooperation. The family had killed Wild Bill partly because power made him dangerous. By threatening his survivors, it created the witness who helped expose the murder. Federal prosecutors charged Ali Boy Persico and Jackie DeRoss. The first murder trial ended without a verdict after jurors could not agree. The government tried again. During the second trial, prosecutors did not yet have Cutolo's body. They built the case through behavior. Persico's summons, Cutolo's statement to his wife, the disappearance after the meeting, DeRoss waiting at the social club, his immediate search for money, the threats against the family, telephone records, recorded conversations, and testimony showing that Persico believed Wild Bill had become powerful enough to challenge him. The defense suggested Cutolo could have disappeared voluntarily. The jury rejected that explanation. In December of 2007, Alphonse Persico and John DeRoss were convicted of murder in aid of racketeering and witness tampering. They faced mandatory life sentences. The murder had been proven without a body. Then the earth opened. Information developed during the continuing investigation led the FBI to a field in Farmingdale. On October 6, 2008, agents began excavating. They uncovered human remains. DNA testing identified William Wild Bill Cutolo. 9 years after the meeting near Shore Road, the underboss finally returned. The discovery corrected one important detail from the original prosecution theory. Investigators had believed the body may have been dumped into the Atlantic Ocean. Instead, Cutolo had been buried on Long Island after being shot. The grave allowed prosecutors to pursue the men accused of carrying out the physical murder. Federal charges identified Gioeli, Calabro, and Saracino as participants. Later court findings connected them to the basement shooting and burial. The murder order had begun at the top. The work passed downward through captains and soldiers. Each layer allowed the acting boss to remain away from the room where Wild Bill died. That was how the organization protected leadership. The boss created the reason. The administration selected trusted men. The shooters controlled the target. Other participants moved the body. Then everyone above the lowest layer could claim he had never pulled a trigger. Persico and DeRoss received life sentences in February of 2009. The judge described a murder committed to settle old scores and protect criminal power. The acting boss had eliminated the underboss. The administration had threatened a widow, children, and grandchildren. The family that claimed to protect its own had attacked 3 generations to preserve one secret. Wild Bill Cutolo was not an innocent victim. He participated in the Colombo family's rackets and violence. He used union influence, fear, and criminal authority to build wealth. During the family war, he sided with men trying to remove the Persicos and became part of a conflict that left bodies across New York. But his murder revealed the truth behind the peace that followed. The war never truly ended. The gunfire stopped. The factions continued remembering. Cutolo believed accepting the underboss position meant the Persicos had recognized his strength. The Persicos saw that strength as the reason he could not remain alive. He believed his soldiers made him protected. They made him threatening. He believed his money proved his value. It gave De Ross something to seize the morning after he disappeared. He believed meeting the acting boss was part of Mafia protocol. The protocol delivered him into the basement. The title says Wild Bill became too powerful for the Colombo boss. That power was real. He controlled loyal men. He influenced labor. He earned heavily. He had survived the family's bloodiest internal conflict. But Mafia power contains a fatal contradiction. The stronger an underboss becomes, the more useful he is to the boss. He keeps captains disciplined. He collects money. He handles violence. Then one day, the same boss looks at those soldiers, collections, and connections, and sees a replacement waiting beneath him. Wild Bill had survived as an enemy. He died after becoming part of the administration. The men who fought him openly during the war failed to remove him. The man who invited him to a meeting succeeded. That was the final lesson of William Cutolo's life. The Colombo War taught him to watch for gunmen. It taught him to recognize strange cars and hostile crews. It taught him that anybody on the opposing faction could become a killer. What it did not teach him was how to refuse peace when peace itself became the weapon. On May 26, 1999, Wild Bill entered the car, believing he was still the Colombo underboss. By the time his crew sat down for dinner, Jackie De Ross was already watching the empty chair. And 9 years later, when FBI agents removed Cutolo's bones from a Long Island field, the grave proved what the Mafia meeting had truly been. Not a negotiation, not a promotion, not a chance to settle the past. A trap designed for the one-man alley boy Persico believed had become powerful enough to take everything.